Right. So tomorrow it is at 2 o'clock. Sharks versus the Lions at down in Durban, and the Sharks need to respond because last week we saw a Lions team put on one of the most dominant performances I've actually seen them, and the scoreline flattered the Sharks because they scored two late tries right at the end. But at the end of the day, they were well outplayed, and they're going to have to respond tomorrow in a big way because if they play like they did last week, I think the Lions could go do the double on them, to be honest. And the Lions are playing for arguably a lot more than the Sharks are tomorrow because they are desperately trying to stay in the hunt for top eight and try and get Champions Cup qualification and URC playoff qualification. So in terms of the Sharks team, well, this is the side that they've named, and for me, the big addition over there is Nche. That is in itself just a game changer of an addition because the scrums last week from the Lions were really good. Asnati Clavicania was very good, and I thought that our Skuman was very good, and the Lions front row really held their own. Tomorrow, they've gone full strength of the Sharks in terms of their best front row. So it's Oxensheds, Bongi Minami, Vincent Clark, Jason Jenkins, Emil van here. No Evan Etzebeth yet, still injured, unfortunately, but it's a very strong tight five. Sia Khaleesi is back to the side. He's captaining it, by the way, as well. Doesn't mention it there, but he will captain the side. Lapitava Skakni does start. No Tino Mavasera and Peps Buthelezi in the number 6 jersey. Interesting that that's kind of the way they've gone about it because previously we have seen Peps Buthelezi obviously wearing the number 8 jersey a lot more than Sia Khaleesi. But it's interesting that Sia Khaleesi is playing at 8th man. He played there for quite a bit for wrestling, and it'll be interesting to see if he becomes an option there potentially even for the box point of view. Although we are got far less depth at 6 for the box. But if, for example, you could play Sia Khaleesi at 8 and a Cameron Honeycomb at 6 in a very different sort of potential lineup. So Grant Williams comes to the starting lineup. A lot of people saying that he should have started last week with how he came on the bench and really affected change. I understand the thinking, in fairness. I understand why, as John Plumtree, you want Grant Williams coming into the last stage of the game because he speeds up the game. He can really have a go at tie defenses and the likes of that. So I can understand the thinking there, but unfortunately last week, for example, the game was just gone. Jordan Nche starts at 10. He was at 15 last week. Basically all he was doing is fetching the ball and being put under pressure. So if the Lions can sort of execute that kicking game tomorrow once again, that will be something the Sharks look to try and counter. But no Simasuku. In the centers, it's Francois Venter and Lorenzo Julius. Ethan Hooker on the wing with Yao Penkley on the other end. And Henry Immelman does make his debut for the Sharks. He's down there on loan from the Bulls. Off the bench, Fez and Barton, Intuka Tunu and Hanwe Jacobs. Intuka Tunu now going into his final years, actually, as a Sharks player. He signed a contract with the Stormers and will be joining them at the end of the season. So, but he'll be looking to try and go out on a good note. Corner roll, the number 19 jersey, James Fenter, who's actually just signed a contract overseas. He'll be heading to the English Premiership and be joining Gloucester. So a big loss that for the Sharks in the same week that they've lost in Tukakunu. You then got Nick Hatton, Jamin Hendrickson, and Hakeem Kunene. Not the best bench, I think, really, from a backline point of view. I think it's a decent bench. It's not as strong as obviously they'd like it to be. It's a good starting lineup, though. I think it's a far more balanced starting lineup than it was last week. Again, Oxenchair adds a huge difference to this side. We don't know what the Lions side's going to look like, unfortunately. I keep refreshing my email to see if it's potentially come through. But the main thing, I think, from that looking at that Sharks side is the players are there, but they got to start putting it together, and the pack needs to put themselves on the front foot. What was also very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see, the Durban weather conditions, because basically last week the Lions, when it started raining, just gone to a different level. Their skill set last week was so good, and it's gonna be a very different conditions because tomorrow we're looking at 30 degrees high. It's at 2 o'clock, so it's going to be warm. It's going to be that's what the Lions will have sort of a bit of an advantage in terms of a fitness level because obviously they play at altitude, so they'll feel a lot fitter down there. But at 30 degrees and clear skies, it's going to be a long game. And what will be interesting to see is which team is going to try and slow things down, which team's going to maybe try to speed things actually up again, and to try and really sort of have a go at each other. But in terms of what this game actually means, this is what the table currently looks like. So you've got the Sharks sitting in 4th place, and they're on 34 points. Now, they have missed a trick because if they had won last week, they could have really put pressure on the Bulls. So, they went and beat the Bulls, which was obviously a big game, but then lost to the Lions where they could have gained even more. So this is their game in hand. The big thing from them is they want to try and create a bit of distance between themselves and Munster, get themselves that home URC quarterfinal, and hope that then that becomes their home URC semifinal and the likes. Because I think home advantage is huge, especially in the URC playoffs. So that, for example, was a big L for them last week. If they were to lose again this week, it means they'll only have a 1 point advantage over Munster and they'll have their games caught up. The Lions, on the other hand, well, they're sitting in an interesting position because they're sitting 1 point behind 8th. They've got quite a good run in towards the end of the season. So I feel that if they win tomorrow, they should make the top 8. Because a win tomorrow puts them at least into 7th place and will put them 2 points, into 6th place and put them 2 points ahead of Edinburgh, 1 point ahead of Cardiff, and 3 points ahead of Connacht. And they'll have to keep their games caught up. If they were to, for example, replicate last week and get a bonus point win, well, that would be massive because that puts them at 33 points. And by virtue of having won 7 games versus 6, they'd actually go ahead of Munster. So the Lions can go from 9th to 5th and be 1 point behind the Sharks. That's how big of a swing it could be. The Lions win tomorrow with a bonus point, and they not only ignite their season from making the playoffs, they could become genuine contenders for a home playoff. That's how big the margins are tomorrow. Look, the Lions don't win tomorrow and they get a losing bonus. The big thing I think tomorrow is the Lions have to get bonus points. Have to get bonus points. Even if they don't manage to get a win tomorrow, but they come away with 2 losing bonus points, that will put them firmly in the top 8 after the games they've got to catch up. And we'll go look at the fixtures the Lions have got over here in terms of the games they've got left. I just want to see the Lions. Here we go. So tomorrow is technically a round 1 clash, inverted commas, because it's a catch-up. But then after tomorrow, from a Lions perspective, and then we'll look at the Sharks as well, they go away for their last away tour. So they're going away against Cardiff, and that's at Cardiff Arms Park. And then they are away against Glasgow Warriors. Now, the frustrating thing is if this was the other way around, I would have really fancied having a go at Glasgow. Because this is the Six Nations weekend. No, it's not actually. Friday 21st is next weekend. No, okay, no, it's not. So it doesn't really make much of a difference. Although I suppose it does make a difference in terms of it would have been after the Six Nations. A couple of players could have been injured. A couple of players could have been sort of coming back. But these are 2 big games. You've got to win Cardiff. I think that's the big thing. You've got to go overseas. Cardiff are really good, by the way, and playing really well. You've got to try and get one of these wins. Because you get one of these wins, I think that you've basically wrapped up a playoff because this is the Lions running. They've got Benetton at home, they've got Connacht at home, Scarlets at home, Ospreys at home. They've got 4 home games to finish the season, and I think you could probably be winning at least 2, if not 3, out of these games. So if you can win 2 out of 3 of these games, basically they've got 6 games left, and I think they need to win at least 3. I think if they win 3, that probably could be enough to get into the playoffs. If they win 4, I think that's definitely enough. If they win 5, I think they get a home playoff. So that's what they're playing for. From a Sharks point of view, where are the Sharks? Here we go. They've got an interesting run-in because they've got, after this, they've got some really a really nice fixture against Zebra. The nice thing about this Leinster fixture is Leinster very rarely send a strong side down at this stage of the season. They always seem to do their trip in the URC towards the end of the season. This is probably the earliest I think they've actually come out. But that's going to be a tough game. They then go away to Edinburgh, which is going to be a tough game. Away to Ulster. Ulster not playing particularly well, so they'll fancy themselves against Ulster. Home against Ospreys, home against Scarlets. It's a nice run in these 2 games, but this tour could be a bit of a tricky one for them. So, bottom line is tomorrow, I think whoever wins tomorrow have got so much momentum going into the rest of the URC, and I think that could be huge. I think that could be the difference, to be perfectly honest, between getting playoffs and not. So my guts is I think the Lions can do it. I don't know if we will. You know, we've struggled to be able to put sort of 2 good performances in a row, and that kind of inconsistency has been a big problem for us. But they'll be feeling very confident after last week. I'll tell you what, the one thing I will say is that Johnny Lombard, if he was playing the way he's playing now from the beginning of the season, I think he probably would have been ahead in the Boca Lyman camp ahead of Asiya Masuku, because I think he's been really good the last few weeks, and that's been a big difference. Corner During was asking what we're discussing today. Everything rugby. Is there anything you want to ask or anything you want to throw in? I'll ask away. Tian van den Berg saying Nche back for tomorrow. Think it'll be a good yardstick for Asenati to measure up to now that he's in Boca Lyman camps. Again, a big part of that. You know, Asenati and Clavicania does a job on Nche, and then goes on Monday and says, how's to Don Human, how you been? And he says, well, I've been pretty good. Have you not been seeing? You know, then all of a sudden he can really raise his stocks. So I think that's a very good point as well. You know, lots of players tomorrow out there to prove against Springboks and the likes of that they belong. But yeah, my gut says I think that the Sharks should get the victory, but I'd really love to see the Lions go out and get a result. Prediction is probably within 5 points. I think tomorrow will be a close game. I don't think we'll see a runaway like we did last week, unless the Lions play like they did against the Bulls 2 weeks ago. But even then, they almost came back to win it. So yeah, the Lions are an 80-minute team. That's what people keep talking about to them, and it sounds really silly. But they are, they are a team that don't go down. And this is the nice thing, and this is what I've enjoyed watching them, is that even when we've had bad starts, we can find a way back into the game. So hopefully we're in for a really cool game tomorrow.